Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car, because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. Know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun.
Cops are out there cracking down on drunk driving all across the country, and they'll see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Longinusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me again this morning on Next on the Tee. I am your host, Chris Mascaro, and today I have the wonderful privilege of having two great guests that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. First up, we're going to get a return visit from PGA pro Jim Estes. Jim has won a number of things. He was the 1985 Maryland Amateur Champion. He won on the then Nike Tour. He's been recognized by the PGA of America as their Professional of the Year. And perhaps his greatest achievement is being co-founder of the Salute Military Golf Association, which is doing such incredible things for our wounded warriors. I can't wait to get into that when Jim joins me here in just a few moments. Following Jim, I'm going to get a return visit from Allen Edmonds CEO Paul Grangaard. I've really enjoyed getting to know Paul and the folks over at Allen Edmonds and their line of shoes and apparel over the last few months. We're going to get an update from Paul on what Allen Edmonds has in store for us this fall. We'll talk also a little bit more about their partnership with Jack Nicklaus and the great golf shoes that they've created together. Paul is going to be around with me about 20 minutes from now. So it's going to be another great show today, folks. I'm so glad you're here to take the journey with me over the next hour or so. Next on the Tee is brought to you today by Seymour Putters. Let's get things rolling by hearing a word about them.
Golfers, has this happened to you? Great drive, perfect second shot on the green, only to 3 or even 4 putt, shaking your head all the way back to the cart. I have good news. Help is on the way with the Seymour Putter. The Seymour Putter Company's patented RST technology sets up the putter perfectly every time, using a visible gun sight on the top line. Genius. It's like locking radar onto the target, in this case, the golf hole, putting the golfer in perfect position to make a reliable and consistent stroke. The 1999 U.S. Open and 2007 Masters champions both use, you guessed it, the Seymour Putter. So if you're ready to make more putts and take strokes off your game, log on to Seymour.com. That's SEEMORE.com and put a Seymour Putter in your bag today.
Yeah, like Joe said, check out the rifle scope technology that helped now to win 3 majors, including this year's Open champion. So 3 majors, 36 tour events and counting, my friends. It's going to help you make more putts too. I know it's helping me. Check them out online. It's Seymour, and that's SEEMORE.com, and get one in your bag. You're going to be very glad you did. I also want to introduce you to our new sponsor, the French Lick Resort up in Indiana. Folks, you want to talk about a spectacular place to go. Check out FrenchLick.com. It is absolutely spectacular. I had the privilege of taking my family up there in June, and we're already looking forward to going back as soon as possible. The resort up there is historic. It's beautiful. And the golf, oh my, the golf. The Pete Dye Golf Course hosted this year's Senior PGA Championship and is always kept in championship condition. The Donald Ross course is great, the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. They've also got the Valley Links course that dates back to 1907. They've got another great event coming up in August, the Legends Championship, with many of the greatest LPGA players of all time going to be there. And now, let's hear a word about the French Lick Resort.
Inkster, Rinker, Bradley, Stevens, Leyland.
Our rich golf history comes alive once again as the legends of the LPGA return to French Lick Resort August 28th through 30th. The Legends Championship, presented by Old National Bank, benefiting Riley Hospital for Children. See the greats of ladies golf take on the gorgeous Pete Dye course in a fun and relaxed setting. Learn more about the Legends Championship presented by Old National Bank, August 28th through the 30th at FrenchLick.com.
So the French Lick Resort needs to be on your place of places to both stay and play golf. So it's a fantastic place. Check it out online. You can find them again at FrenchLick.com. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Allen Edmonds. You know, like I said earlier, we're going to be talking with their CEO, Paul Grangaard, here in a little while. But folks, the shoes of great leaders, from the Oval Office to corner offices to stage and screen and promising cubicles all around the country, are a part of what make people successful. The right footwear is important on the carpets and the hardwood floors of our global economy. Get it right with made in USA quality and value from Allen Edmonds. Allen Edmonds is an American original. You can find them online at allenedmonds.com. All right, we also want to kick off the show like we do every single week here on Next on the Tee, and that's by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank all of you for your daily sacrifices and for what you do to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank our veterans for all you've done for us over the years. We truly appreciate everything our military personnel and their families do and sacrifice to keep the rest of our freedoms and our liberties the way they are. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to have our show be a part of your network. You can find us by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. Also want to remind our veterans, be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. It's a wonderful website. You're going to find news and articles and a wealth of information designed specifically for our veterans. I'm sure you're going to find what you find on that site both interesting and beneficial to you. Please check it out and bookmark it, globalvoiceforveterans.org. We also want to thank everyone listening in across the internet on great radio sites like iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, wherever you're pulling us in from. We appreciate you taking a listen to the show today. Plus, if someone's dragging you to the mall or to the grocery store, you're just simply tired of the same old you get when you're out on your commute, please download the Player.fm or Stitcher app on your smartphone. You can take us with you everywhere you go that way. Let us give you something fun to focus on while you're out and about. All right, now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Jim Estes. Let me give you some background on Jim. He's from Washington, D.C., played his college ball at the University of Tennessee and then at the University of Maryland. Jim won the 1985 Maryland Amateur Championship. He played on the Nike Tour, now the Nationwide Tour, back in the late 80s and 90s, winning the 1989 Greater Ozarks Open and the 1996 Nike Inland Empire Open. Jim has also worked as a club professional during that time, winning the 1995 PGA Club Professional Player of the Year Award from the PGA of America. He is also the co-founder of the Salute Military Golf Association, which provides rehabilitative golf experiences for our wounded warriors and our veterans. In 2007, he was one of 12 individuals recognized by Golf Magazine for their Innovator Award, and I'm very thankful to have Jim back with me and Next on the Tee this morning. Hey, Jim, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Thank you for that introduction. That's I forgot about all that stuff. I'm getting old.
I'm with you, my friend. So, Jim, you know, one of the places our show can be heard is on the Armed Forces Radio Network. And I want to start by reminding our listeners about the great work you're doing, helping our wounded veterans and our military personnel, whether it's relearning the game after being wounded or introducing them to the game as well. Talk about the work you're doing with the Salute Military Golf Association.
Sure, Chris. Thanks for that. Well, it started in 2006. I made a trip over to Walter Reed, a Vietnam veteran friend of mine. He took some golf lessons, said he was going to go visit some of the troops. And I went over with him, and I was just overwhelmed. I thought, man, I got to do something. I got kids myself, 18 and 20, and I'm thinking, man, this could be my son or my daughter. And I just thought, well, maybe they'll like golf. And he said, why don't you talk to some of these vets at the dinner that I go to? Hal Koster from the Alethea Foundation was a helicopter gunner pilot in Vietnam and started a great foundation to give vets and their families the opportunity to experience a hot meal on Friday nights particularly when you're injured and there's a prolonged period of time for rehabilitation, it's important to keep the family together. So got up and spoke and said, look, I'm a golf pro. I don't know what I can do to help you guys. I know some of you have never played golf, but I would love to get the opportunity to meet you guys, and I want you to see some green grass and sunshine. I think that would help you. And we started it off, in 2007, Jamie Winslow and Jamie grew up with me in D.C. We went and played golf together at Manor Country Club, and Jamie played at GW, and I played at Tennessee and Maryland, and he just called me one day, and he's like, I saw what you did for the vets, and I hosted a couple clinics. We had what's called Salute Servicemen Day, and we had a bunch of the vendors come out, and we gave free lessons when we had their families out, and it just, we had some people say, hey, why don't we donate some money, and why don't you just teach these guys? And I thought, that's a good idea. I mean, I don't know how we'd make this happen. So Jamie helped me get the paperwork, filed with the IRS, and off we went. And now we have eight chapters. We've got a 16-week clinic series we do at 3 different locations, and then we have various different clinic series based on the venue. And we gave out 227 sets of golf clubs last year, custom clubs from TaylorMade to the vets and their families. And it's an inclusive activity. We want children and their families to experience their golf, and that's sort of the direction the PGA is going. And I'm pleased to say we have people of color, people from all different, just backgrounds. It's an amazing thing to see a vet who really possesses all the qualities that you want as a coach. They've got, mental toughness, self-discipline, they're cool under pressure, they're physically fit. So I'm thinking, I can make some headway with these folks. And President Bush's staff called me from the George Bush Foundation in 2011 and said, we want to do a Warrior Open, and I want you to be involved. And they saw an article in USA Today on Tim Lang, who's a Marine that lost his leg and got down to a scratch. And so off we went, and we're small. We're a very small organization, but we only have 2 employees. I don't take a salary or anything like that. I just get paid for my time. I'm a golf professional that teaches golf. That's all I do: teach and coach and play a little bit. So it's exciting. It's exciting every day to wake up to know that I'm doing some small thing for somebody in the military. I have a military background. My dad was in the Navy, and he was a doctor, and his side of the family were Army folks at Fort Benning, and so I was indoctrinated to the military life at a young age. So that's a little bit about things. Yeah.
So, Jim, you mentioned 8 chapters. I know I think you're working on a 9th, but let our listeners know where they can find these chapters around the country.
Sure. If you go to smga.org, we just got our website redone, and we've got something really exciting, Chris, called the American Golfer Program. If you don't come near one of our chapter locations, you can sign up online to get a PGA professional to give you lessons at no charge. And then we don't take everybody because we don't, our budget is limited, but we had like 65 sign up last year, and I think we're filled up. If I talk to Danny Flieger, our executive director, we just hired another girl, Nina Myers, from Clear Channel. She worked for Clear Channel for a while, and we're excited to have her. So we're looking to expand that. I think it's a great idea. PGA professionals, teach and grow the game, and they're the experts in business and teaching of the game. And so, if you find this application online and you find a PGA professional near your where you live, we'll be happy to make that connection for you.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
And Jim, you guys have an annual golf tournament every June. Talk about that event, plus as you mentioned, some of these the other clinics that the SMGA holds and the events you guys sponsor throughout the year.
Sure. Well, Jamie Winslow, he is the business side. I'm the golf side. So Jamie has a lot of connections in business. He's a lobbyist and he works for a large company, Sumitomo Corporation. And anyway, a lot of his friends from school and support our cause unbelievably. They come in from all over the country. We usually have, 144 players. We have a ton of people come to this event. We have the Warriors in every group. for the sponsors to experience what it's like for these guys to hit the golf ball and see what they do on the golf course. It's just mind-boggling to a lot of the sponsors. They just can't believe it. And then, of course, it's a great way to interface with corporate America for these guys to get a mentor, so to speak, someone that's going to say, hey, this is what you need to do to get established in the workforce here in civilian life. So it's really cool. I mean, if I could just quit my job and just do this SMGA stuff full time, I mean, I would. But thank God we've got 2 young employees that are motivated, and I just wake up every day excited to go to work, which is good. I mean, I still like to play and played in the senior PGA French Lick. I just was amazed at how awesome that golf course was. I mean, it was such a challenge, but what a piece of real estate. Oh my gosh.
Right.
The guy did it up right there. So yeah, and I'm going to look at going to Champions Tour qualifying and try my hand and see what those guys are all about. I mean, so yeah, I still like to play, but I mean, that's really my passion is the SMGA and teaching. So yeah. Yeah,
Jim, I have to imagine that, some of the people that you get to meet and work with on the SMGA, they have such incredible challenges to overcome, whether it's, a loss of a limb or multiple limbs.
Yep. I mean, the thing that we can do as a group, we have 13 board members that have all been military, experienced in the military, both in the, all different MOSs. Their military occupation ranges from infantry to, up to the Pentagon. So, when we sit down and have lunch with these guys, we hope that we can build up their emotional bank account. In other words, get them to trust us and say, hey, we're here for you. You made the commitment for us. We're here for you. And you don't have to tell us anything, or you can tell us everything, but basically we want to serve you guys. You served us. And that's our motto. Right. I mean, one fairway at a time, we're changing lives. So,
when you're able to get a player like that, you talk about, how the great sacrifices they made for every one of us, right? And the
right.
tremendous loss that they may be suffering through. But when you're able to get a player like that to start playing golf again and regain some of the joy of, playing the game or learning the joy of playing that game, that's got to be incredibly fulfilling for you. Talk about what it's like to bring back the joy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, Chris, I played golf at the highest level. I played on the PGA Tour when Tiger was at his prime. And, I would go out there and beat balls and grind for 8 hours to make a living. And it was so self-absorbed, and you have to be that way. If you want to be a great tour player, you've got to be self-absorbed, and you've got to be able to say no to people, and you've got to, you got to be a little selfish. And it was hard for me. And I mean, I'm a hard worker. I never had a great college career. I never even won a college tournament. It took me until I was 32 to get on tour. But my goal was to make the tour and win a tour, but I never did that. But the point is, when I started working with other people and saw that, hey, I got the wrong perspective on this. I'm taking golf and it's my life. This is my livelihood. It means too much to me. I don't have any balance in my life. So when I saw these guys and what they had to deal with, I'm like, I'm worried about a little golf ball going in a hole. And these guys have got 2 missing limbs. They're in the hospital for 2.5 years. They don't know where they're going to work. They don't know where they're going to live. They don't know where their family members are. And I'm worried about hitting a little golf ball in a hole to make money. And I'm like, something's wrong with this picture.
Yeah, so, no, that's got to give you some pretty great perspective on things.
Exactly. So I sort of changed my whole way of thinking. And, I think I probably am a better player now because I don't have that perspective that golf is everything in my life and I have to make a putt and have to hit a golf ball, and suddenly my ego and my self-esteem is not based on my golf score.
Right. Jim,
so it's pretty cool.
No doubt it is. Jim, I mentioned, in the intro about the Innovator Award that Golf Magazine recognized you for. Talk about that award and what they gave it to you for.
Well, Bill Fields wrote an article in Golf World Magazine, and Rex Hoggard. I qualified for the Club Pro Championship and made the PGA. And but before that, in 2007, I went to the Disabled American Veterans organization. And I said, look, I think we need to do something in the way of recreation for these guys. And they said, look, we'll set up the bank account. We'll get you a treasurer. We'll do it all. All you have to do is just teach golf, and we'll collect the money, and, you know, you can do whatever, you know, you want to give clubs and lessons and whatever. But I think, you know, just it was overwhelming to go to the hospital and see all that. You know, I mean, the military changed so much in terms of the ability for them to protect their war fighters. I mean, they've got these Humvees that have got incredible protection on them and all this. And so guys were dying in Vietnam are living now. And so the injuries were so vast and severe. I mean, with head injuries, you got multiple amputations up in lower extremity. You got people with traumatic brain injuries. Some of them lost their ability to do things on a daily basis at the level that they're used to doing just from being, you know, exploded out of a Humvee or whatever. I mean, and so it just motivated me to because I saw some miracles happen in that hospital. I saw people that couldn't walk or talk play golf and break 80. I mean, you tell me how that happens. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like, how does that happen, right? I mean, So, I mean, I've just, the people at Walter Reed embraced us from day one. We, you know, they've got so many great physicians over there, and thank God my dad was a doctor, so I was a little bit, you know, I was a little bit I had a clue about how all that works a little bit, you know, and I learned from all those great physicians, PTs and occupational therapists and rec therapists about balance, mobility, stability, and all the things that they were doing to get these guys back on the battlefield, we do in golf. And I'm like, well, geez, this is a perfect fit.
Right.
So, you know, you look at Ricky Fowler and all these top kids now, they all got a trainer, they all got a sports site, they got, you know, it's like that's what the military does to prepare those guys to go to battle. The same exact stuff.
That's great
stuff.
So,
and golf is such a mental game, right? I mean, and to be in theater and have the same exact thing that you have to do when you're under pressure on a golf course. I mean, you got to think on your feet, and you got to be able to have confidence in what you're doing and be able to react under pressure. So, yeah, I mean, it's the same deal.
Jim, when I look back, over your biography and the things you've achieved in the game of golf, and like you say, you're director of instruction now, and you've been coached by some of the greatest coaches in the game's history. You spent time with David Ledbetter and Jim Flick and Mike Adams. Talk about the those guys have had on you.
Well, I'll tell you, David was at Greenleaf in 1988. I was just turning pro, and he had three people that he was teaching. He came from South Africa, and Greenleaf gave him a spot there in Orlando, and he had Frosty and Nick Faldo and Price. And, David changed the game with video. I mean, he had a Sony video camera, and he's like looking at video, and I just never heard anything like that. And he had a mirror, and he had a video room, and he's like, let's look at your swing. Let's break this down. And, so he changed the way we taught. And of course, he got involved with IMG early on with Nick and Price and Faldo. So he grew the game for all professionals. He was the standard as it relates to how to build a business. I mean, he's got the business savvy, and he's a great teacher. I mean, he's a pretty humble guy, to be honest with you. He's a pretty shy guy, but he loves the game of golf, and he will do anything and everything to figure out how to make people better. And David played a little bit on the European tour, and so I learned a lot from just watching him and his staff. He had a very small staff, but now obviously with all the places he has around the world. But, I was fortunate back then to get a feel for not only how he taught a beginner, but how he taught a tour player. I'd watch him work with Nick or Frosty, and I'd just be, just watching as a kid going, this guy's, I don't know how he does this. I got to figure this out. I got to figure out, how he approaches every person differently. It's a unique. Everyone has their own blueprint based on their body and how they think and so on. And Jim Flick, I got through TaylorMade. I've been in with TaylorMade for a long time. I got to be with Mr. Flick a number of times. I never forget calling him right before I went to tour school in 1998. I had to play well the last day, and he gave me some great advice. He's like, play with your eyes and play by feel. And I went out and shot 66 the last day and got my card, and that was the biggest thrill of my life. So,
wow.
And Mike Adams, in 90, I was Club Pro Player of the Year in 95, but I went to Mike in those early years, and he was on the forefront of biomechanics with Gideon Ariel and all these guys. And Mike is, he's a scientist at nature, and Dr. Jim Sutty. I mean, all those guys at the PGA at the highest level in teaching had some influence. And I go to those coaching and teaching summits, and I learn something every time I go. And to me, the best teachers make it simple, and they figure out your blueprint for you pretty quick, and they get guys better pretty quick. I mean, because this is a society where you got to get people better in 30 minutes, or they're not coming back. So
right.
So that was the gift. I watched a lot of guys teach. The younger teachers I don't know so much, like a Sean Foley or Chris Cuomo. I got to see Chris at the Teaching and Coaching Summit give a presentation, but I'm used to Dick Harmons and Butch Harmons and Billy Harmons and those guys who are taught without a camera a lot and taught by ball flight. And I think you got to be able to mix both of them up. I think you have to have technology, I think, is helpful, but I also think you got to teach people how to play the game. It's not just golf swing. And so in our clinics, we want guys, I always tell them, I want you to hit it first, get it airborne, and then we'll worry about where it goes. And then you can hit it far, in that order.
There you go.
We set their sights, we give them expectations that are achievable. We don't want people to go out there and practice golf and infuriate themselves. So, we try to set that tone pretty early on. And we've had really good success. I mean, most of the people that play the game and get a set of clubs are still playing, I mean, from what we've tracked. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Jim, one more before we let you go. We've got our next guest, Paul Grangaard, hanging on the line, and we're going to get to Paul in just a moment. But before we go, you've talked about, here teaching guys and some of the high-level thought process you go through. But what's something that you can share with our listeners who may be going out to play this weekend? Some typical mistakes you see we amateurs make that maybe a tip to help us shave a couple of strokes. I'll
tell you one. I just, I hate to brag on this, but I'm 51, and I shot 63 on Wednesday at Piedmont Country Club, and I took a tip. Nice. I know, I had 10 birdies. It's crazy. I haven't shot that since 2003, but I've had a lot of influence from Aim Point. I've had a lot of influence from Dr. Craig Farnsworth. But one of the things I did on a breaking putt was look at the spot where I wanted my aim point and not the hole. So on a left or right downhill putt, a lot of people miss the hole because their last look is at the hole. So their hands go to the hole, and they miss it on the other side. So what I said was, I'm going to look at my spot, and if it's downhill, I'm going to look a little short of the hole, and I'm going to find that spot to look at. And I looked at the spot. I hit it at the spot, and that's the one little tip that I would try if I were you. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but it worked for me.
Wow.
So uphill putts into the grain, I look past the hole. I don't look at the hole. If it's uphill into the grain, I'll look a little past the hole. Optimum speed, I want to go 6 to 12 inches past. I don't want to leave putts short. And the biggest thing for people they need to realize is try to make your 3 to 4 footers, work on those, work on your lag putts from 20, 30, 40 feet. And then, 3 clubs are 80% of your score, your driver, your wedge, and your putter. So spend the most time. If 40% of your score is putting, spend 40 minutes of every hour putting.
There you go. That's a great tip, absolutely. Jim, how can our listeners, find you and the Salute Military Golf Association online?
Yeah, so I just have my own website, jimestesgolf.com or olneygolfpark.com, which is where I work. It's a great training facility outside of D.C. We got 106 tee stations. We got 12,000 square foot putting green. It's a great place to learn golf. Wish we had a course, but we got a couple practice holes. But anyway, smga.org, you can learn all about SMGA. We got great PGA professionals, working in parts of the country like Boston and Dallas and Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune and Fort Eustis and Fort Drum. And, check us out, and give us a call if you have any questions, particularly if you're military. I'm looking forward to the Warrior Open again. I get to caddy for this new kid I had, Andrew Hillstrom. He's going to play in the Warrior Open, and I'm looking forward to that. That's always fun. So
absolutely.
Hopefully you guys fill out that application. If you're under a 20 handicap, get on that George Bush Foundation Warrior Open and fill out that application so they can pick you for that Warrior Open, because it's like a tour event. It's cool.
That's fantastic. And you're also available. You're also out there on social media as well, right? On Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter, #1 Golf Doc. And, like I go on Facebook. I've got my own Facebook page, Jim Estes Golf. So, I'm not greatest at the social media platform. I'm getting better. I'm going to learn from you, Chris. I'm going to learn from you.
Jim, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday morning to be a part of the show. It's always so much fun and a privilege to get to talk to you. I hope you'll come back and keep us updated on what's going on with SMGA and the things you're doing. I
just thank you for the opportunity to let me talk about that, because it means a lot to me. And once again, I hope that all those folks listening in Armed Forces Radio and around the world know that the golf world is on your side, and we want you guys to enjoy life a little bit when you get the time. Call a PGA professional and go out there and get some lessons and some clubs and get out there on the course.
Absolutely right. Jim, thanks again, and we look forward to catching up with you hopefully real soon. In the meantime, all the best to you, everyone that's participating in SMGA, and your family as well.
All right. Thanks again, Chris. Appreciate the time.
All right.
Bye now.
All right. Take care, Jim. Catch up soon. That's Jim Estes, and again, great stuff that he is doing. So Salute Military Golf Association. For all of our veterans and wounded warriors out there, please check it out, smga.org online. Really great stuff, and I look forward to having Jim back on the show, and he can keep us updated on all the great things that they're doing. All right, now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Paul Grangaard. Let me give you some background on Paul. He earned his bachelor's degree at Stanford and his MBA at the University of Chicago. He spent 19 years as an investment banker and is now president and CEO of the Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation, and he's been so for the last 7 years. The Allen Edmonds Company has been handcrafting shoes made here in America going all the way back to 1922, so they've been doing it for 93 years now, folks. They were on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008 when Paul took over, so he led quite a turnaround there. They partner with one of my golfing heroes, Jack Nicklaus, to make an outstanding line of golf shoes. I know because I got a pair, and they're the most comfortable pair of shoes, golf shoes I've certainly ever worn, and I am very excited to have Paul back with me again next on the tee this morning. Good morning, Paul. How are you, my friend?
I'm well, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Good.
So Paul, let's start right there with the Jack Nicklaus line of golf shoes. Paul, the look of the shoe is outstanding. My next pair is going to be the Anaconda shoes in brown. Love how they look, and they're just fantastic to wear. But I got to admit, Paul, I was a little bit skeptical because, they are completely spikeless golf shoes. Got sort of a nub pattern along the sole of the shoe, and I wasn't sure about the stability and how they would perform. But I tell you, the first time I got to wear them was first thing in the morning up at the French Lick Resort up in Indiana, dew all over the ground still, and the shoes were absolutely outstanding. Talk about creating those shoes with Mr. Nicklaus and how you guys provide such great stability with the spikeless golf shoe.
Yeah, it was Jack himself who said he didn't want to do a spike shoe. I actually started off when we first started working with both Jack and his son Jackie actually was quite involved with what we were doing. Thinking that we do a very classic-looking shoe because the classic shoes were disappearing, and there are a lot of us who grew up playing with spike shoes, love the sound of the click on a cart path between holes, walking from the slam of the trunk in the parking lot to the first tee, and hearing those clicks, and just feeling the spikes. But Jack said nobody needs spikes. And nobody wants spikes anymore. He really wanted us to have a shoe that you could put on at home, drive your car to the golf course and walk right on to the course, and then maybe run errands afterwards wearing the shoes. So we went down that path with him and came up with an initial pattern that we liked quite a bit, but it was a different kind of construction of the shoes. And if you really practiced a lot, the way shoes were made, the sole would start to pull away from the outside of the foot as somebody twists into their forward foot when they swing, especially an aggressive swinger, and they weren't holding up as well as we needed them to, and that just wasn't Alan Edmonds' quality at that level. So we came up with a new construction where we get these shoes sewn together and in the way we make our great dress shoes. And this new tread that we have on the bottom, has these great nubs and then a connecting line between each of the nubs, and the whole pattern really just grips the ground as well as you need to, whether it's dewy or dry or sand situations, or
right.
It just really works well.
Yeah, no, I was completely amazed and very happy with how the shoe performed. Like I say, we were one of the first groups out, so there was dew everywhere, and boy, the shoes just were outstanding and very comfortable, and they look great too. So kudos to you guys for coming together on a great golf shoe line. And you guys also work with Mr. Nicholas on other things. You've got hats, you got golf gloves, you got socks. They're very unique in their design and the Nicholas logo. Talk about working with him on other things as well.
Well, the socks were actually something that was our idea. We said, Jack, can we put the new logo we have on some socks? And he's got obviously arrangements with others for apparel, but nobody had socks out. So they have golf shirts and other golf apparel, but not socks. And we went to a company just north of us in Wisconsin, also along the shores of Lake Michigan. This one in Sheboygan, it's a famous sock company, Wigwam. They make socks for triathletes. They make socks for hunters. They make some really great athletic socks. And we worked closely with Wigwam to come up with a sock that would, be a great sock to have in a golf round, absorb perspiration, wick it away, and all those great performance things with socks. And then it was fun to put that Jack with his putter up in the air on the 17th hole at the Masters in 1986 to put that icon right on the top of the sock. For a big fan of Jack, as I have been and always will be, to have a logo like that to look at every time we show one of our products to somebody, it gives me a bit of goosebumps every time.
Yeah, no, and as I'm a huge fan of Mr. Nicholas and 86. The 1986 Masters, one of two events that brought me to tears after the 1980 U.S. Olympic team's win. But those two events are very moving for me, and I love that logo that you guys have incorporated. And I got to tell you, Paul, I was driving home last night. I live just outside of Atlanta, and I was going through downtown Roswell, Atlanta. There's a lot of shops and restaurants through in the square of Roswell, and out of the corner of my eye, I get captured. Guy's got a darker hat on with a yellow logo, and there it was, the Nicholas and Alan Edmonds hat that the guy was walking through downtown. I thought, that is outstanding.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, any plans with Mr. Nicholas to expand the things you guys are working on together?
Well, we're working on the next edition of the shoes. We're coming out with some new styles here that we'll introduce in the fall. They'll be available in southern climates during golf season down there and ready for next year. So that's the main focus right now, is to try to stay fresh with some new styles on the shoes.
Great. Paul, last time, we had the opportunity to talk, and we talked a lot about taking out the Alan Edmonds company from the brink of bankruptcy and completely turning that organization around. Give us an update on how things are going for you guys this year, and then as you sort of hint at a little bit, what we've got to look forward to out of the Alan Edmonds line this fall.
Well, one of the things I'm most excited about for the fall is a boot that we're doing that we're calling the Normandy boot. It looks like an Army paratrooper or a paratrooper's boot from World War II, and so the connection there is obvious by calling it the Normandy. We try to name shoes with some little meaning behind them. Sometimes it's easier than others, and in this case, when I saw the boot being developed, I just thought, we got to name that after World War II, the paratroopers on D-Day and the victory there. So it looks like it came out of somebody's trunk. They found a World War II Army trunk underneath the couch and downstairs, or maybe up in the attic somewhere, and pulled it out open and hadn't been opened in years. And there are these boots in there. They're soft. They are immediately broken in, and it's just a very cool look with anything you'd want to wear over them. Khakis, jeans. It's the right thing to wear to a football game in the northern climates of this country, I think, for this fall. And we think it'll be a big feature of what brings some energy to our stores this fall. We've got our Rediscover America sale at the end of September and the beginning of October. We have it end on the Monday of Columbus Day every year because, less than 2% of the shoes that are bought in the United States in a given year were made in this country, and we're one of those last remaining places that makes their shoes here. So that big sale is coming up. We're looking forward to that. We've just opened a new store in the D.C. area at Tyson's Galleria, and it's off to a fantastic start. We're going to open in Pentagon City next year, so we'll be close to the Pentagon, which I'm looking forward to serving the men and women who serve us with a store right nearby there, and we're just going to continue to grow. We've got a store coming in Seattle, Washington area in Bellevue for the first time in about a month. We've never had a store in Seattle before, so we're excited about that. We just continue to expand the business.
That's fantastic stuff. And Paul, as you mentioned, Wisconsin, and how well, your shoes are made, 100% made here in the U.S. in Wisconsin. The company was bought a few years ago by a company, a private equity firm in L.A., but the headquarters has remained for Allen Edmonds in Port Washington, Wisconsin. Talk about why you guys have chosen to stay right there in Wisconsin.
Well, 93 years is a lot of generations of shoemakers, and it's really important to have experienced people train the next generation in how to make these shoes. It would be very difficult to try to start a shoe plant with all new people, for one thing. And, the second thing is, the reason I went over there is a sense of mission. It wasn't a job that I thought I'd ever do. But these companies in their communities are extremely important. And, Milwaukee has a fantastic history of manufacturing. It's one of the great manufacturing centers of the United States. And yet they'd had the same problems in Milwaukee that a lot of all cities have had, with plants being shut down and jobs being lost and production going overseas. So, I and the whole team I had there very much felt a mission to get this company strong again and to keep it going, to provide the jobs, to give Americans a chance to buy great shoes made in the United States, and to, once we got it going, start walking and then running once we got back on our feet, because, we didn't want to be at just 2%. We're hoping to play our part in changing the direction of that percentage and bringing it back to first 3, then 5, then 10, and who knows where it could go going forward.
And, as you mentioned a moment ago, a lot of the production, for shoes, 98% of the production of shoes is overseas. Talk about resisting the temptation, or I'm sure you guys have had to have been approached multiple times from manufacturing facilities, offshore. Talk about resisting the temptation to go the route that so many other people have gone. Well,
one of the important things to know is to understand yourself and what your brand stands for. And, there are way too many competitors who do their business that way in the shoe business. And if we had followed that path, we would have immediately lost our identity, as well as the soul of the company as to what we want to be, what we stand for, and what our customers expect of us. So it was never really contemplated that we would shut down Port Washington. We do have a plant, just so everybody knows, in the Dominican Republic, where we make some of the cheaper shoes that we sell, less expensive shoes, shoes that don't have all the touches that go into our fine dress shoes. We sell, simply made boat shoes down there and some driving moccasins, or we make them down there. And I feel good about that too. The Dominican Republic is, for one thing, it's the island where Columbus first landed, and secondly, it's just a few hundred miles off the shores of Florida, and if we don't take care of our own hemisphere, the Caribbean, the old Monroe Doctrine for all the history fans out there, we'll end up with rafts and other kinds of boats washing ashore, people trying to get into this country. So, and we just can't sell a boat shoe for $250, which is what it would cost for us to try to make it in the United States. So we sell them for $125, $145 made out of there, and they do very well for us. But 90% of our shoes are made in the United States, and we're just very proud of that and don't ever think about going away from that when it comes to our great dress shoes.
Paul, when you came on board just a little over 7 years ago as CEO, what's been the toughest decision that you've had to make as leader of Allen Edmonds?
Well, it's funny if you talk to entrepreneurs and ask them, if you knew now what you knew then, would you have started that company or would you have taken that job? They usually say, no, I was glad I didn't know what I didn't know back then, because I might not have had the courage to do it if I did. I'd say the same thing about decisions we've had to make. Most of the decisions we had to make seemed very obvious at the time. Now looking back, it's like, wow, I'm glad we decided to do that and didn't, get distracted or think some other way in a key decision. There have been a couple personnel decisions that have been very difficult. People are really important to me. I don't believe that business isn't personal. I think when you spend that much time with people together, working in common pursuit, there's no way to keep it impersonal. Yes. You want it to be personal. It should be personal. And so when we've had a couple of tough personnel decisions, those have really eaten away at me personally and at others in the company. So those are very tough. But, the idea of what kinds of shoes we want to make, where we want to make them, who we want to be, those have been really very straightforward decisions. I had a very clear view of what our opportunity was as a company and what we wanted to stand for. I think it's important for companies to stand for things. Companies have personalities too. They have commitments. They have values. They have morals, and those key things were never in question for us.
No, and boy, I can't agree more with the things that you said there, Paul, because, I feel the same way about people and decisions, because, when we spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day sometimes, at our place of work, there's nothing more personal than the job that we do and the performance on our job. So I really appreciate you sharing that story, because I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I when we hire people, I have what I call the airport test. What if your flight got canceled or delayed for 2 hours and you had to sit in the airport with this person? Would you be, antsy and sorry it happened, or would you look forward to getting to know them a little better? If it's the former, you probably shouldn't hire them. If it's the latter, that's somebody you want to put on the team.
There you go. That's a great test. I'm going to remember that one.
Yeah.
Paul, for sports nuts like me, you've also got, you've got a great shoe line made out of, the same leather as, Major League Baseball's with stitching like you'd see on a baseball. Plus you've got, the Duke football leather shoe. You got a basketball shoe. And Paul, I got to tell you, I'm from Pittsburgh, right? So some of my fondest memories are at Three River Stadium. I've got my eye on a pair of cufflinks that you guys have made out of pieces of the seats from Three River Stadium, which is absolutely spectacular. Talk about the other great sports items that our listeners can find on AllenEdmonds.com.
Well, Allen Edmonds men, as we call them, that's what we call our customers, the Allen Edmonds men. They're leaders in all walks of life, and many of them grew up playing sports, and they love sports, and they're kind of all Americans, these guys. And so we wanted to give them things that would make them smile, be a great gift item between colleagues at work at the holiday time, And I just love those cufflinks. I discovered those actually in my second trade show in New York. I was walking around, and there was this very small stand by the company Tokens and Icons that makes that stuff. And they simply go and work with Major League Baseball, and they work with the NFL, and they get reclaimed wood when stadiums are remodeled, and they take the wood and cut it up and put it into these cufflinks. And you might think that the wood is actually a precious stone of some kind, or maybe turquoise or lapis lazuli or some kind of stone, but it's actually a piece of wood from Fenway Park, maybe, or from the original Yankee Stadium, or in your case, from Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, which I used to love watching too. Roberto Clemente play in Three Rivers on the NBC Game of the Week with Kurt Gowdy. Remember that? And Tony Kubek.
Yes.
We were younger. I was anyway. But, it's a ton of fun, and it's a great gift. It's a great thing to wear to a dinner. You're talking business with somebody, but at business dinners, it always turns to the personal side, and comes up that somebody's from Pittsburgh and they're a big Pirates fan, and you can point to your cufflinks and say, these are from Three Rivers Stadium, and the guy's face lights up. So we try to bring those things. The same thing with the football leather. We buy a lot of leather from Horween Leather Factory in Chicago, one of the last remaining tanneries in the United States. And Skip Horween's a great guy. His son Nick is a terrific guy. They're in their fourth generation now of family leadership at that company, and they've been making football leather since George Halas was leading the Chicago Bears, and they are still the leather that the NFL throws around. I don't know how they inflate them exactly, but it's Horween leather that Tom Brady's grabbing onto when he throws those passes. So, it's fun to have shoes made out of Horween leather, that kind of football leather. We got a belt made out of that as well. And, I've got buddies who play college football, and I gave one of them a pair of our loafers made out of that leather, and he wears them all the time. And it's either his secret that he's wearing footballs on his feet, or he tells people. But they look like great dress shoes. Pebble grain is very popular right now, and that's what football leather is. It's an imprinted pebble grain, and yet he knows that he's got Dukes on his feet. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So what we're trying to do is just have some fun with our customers and make them smile a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's all great stuff. It's and I think that's important for our listeners to know. I mean, you guys make the best men's dress shoes on the planet, but there's also other things out there that you guys do as well that to your point, it's fun to take a look at. I tell you, when I mentioned the cufflinks, boy, when I saw that, my eyes lit up. You talk about some of these other things and other styles that you guys do as well. That's all such fun stuff, as well. Plus, before we let you go, you've also got other things that people may not realize they can find on AlanEdmonds.com. You've got T-shirts and dress shirts and sweaters, jeans, pants. Talk about all the other things that people can find when they go to AlanEdmonds.com.
Well, it's we're working very hard to try to take this great relationship and trust we have with our customers and expand it. It's good business, number one, but I hope you can tell us that's not so much why we do it. It's just it's fun to help our guy find things all the way from the right pair of underwear to T-shirts and shirts that we know they're looking for, and we get them as much as we can. We price them the way we price our shoes, which is what we call accessible luxury. So many things that are high quality and made at the highest level of quality materials end up being way overpriced and out of the reach of most people. And one of our goals is to price more fairly. If we can, take the middleman out, so we are going directly to the supplier when it's not a shoe. We only make shoes, so everything else we sell is made by somebody else for us. And we want to be going directly to great manufacturers who can make things for us and then allow us to sell them at very accessible prices. So one of the things we're most excited about for the fall is great canvas and leather bags. The canvas that we're using in these bags that are trimmed with leather is the same canvas that the tents in World War I were made out of. And, that to me is just, it's a great story behind it. We look for great stories. We call these kinds of products discoveries. Sometimes we actually invent them and then discover them in working with our manufacturers. Other times somebody else already makes it, but we think it's a great discovery. So for our customers. So we just are hoping to continue to build our trust and relationship and make them glad that they went beyond the shoe with us.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Paul, you've talked about a couple of the new store locations that we can look forward to around the country opening up. So besides AlanEdmonds.com, talk about where people can find an Alan Edmonds store and get their great stuff there.
Well, I appreciate very much the prompt, Chris. You're a great guy. Thank you. We've got 55 stores around the country. They are concentrated in the business centers of the United States. We've got 10 on Manhattan. We've got 4 now in the Washington, D.C. area, 3 in the Chicago area, 3 in Boston. But we're coast to coast and border to border now, from Minneapolis down to New Orleans on the Mississippi River, where we go from San Francisco to the whole eastern seaboard. Philadelphia, we've got a great store in downtown Philly. So if you go on our website, AlanEdmonds.com, there's a store locator there that can tell you where to go. And I encourage people to go to a store when they can. Shopping online is very easy once you know your size. But one of the great things about our shoes is many of them are available in 9 different widths. And a lot of people have forgotten that you have more than one dimension to your foot. It's not just about the length of your foot. If you get the right width and length with an Alan Edmonds shoe, and then with the different shapes of our shoes, because not all our shoes are made on the same molds. They're made on different molds for different foot shapes. You basically get the quality of a custom made shoe for your foot, because you get the right combination of shape, width, and length. And you can only find that out by working with one of our master fitters in our stores. So strongly encourage people to do that. I'm not sure, though, that it's going to help me, maybe you, Chris, but it won't help me shoot 63 to have these.
No, don't sell yourself short now, Paul. I mean,
I love Jim's pointer on how to shoot 63. And as I was waiting to get on the line here, I got to go look at my spot later today and see if I can at least get down to a different 3. It won't be 63, and it won't be 73. We'll see how many other 3s above that are possible.
Paul, how can our listeners follow you and follow Alan Edmonds on social media as well?
We're on all the various places, Instagram, Twitter. We're on Facebook, just AlanEdmonds.com. You go to AlanEdmonds.com and you can get into any one of those social medias. You can also, if you really love men's fashion, there are 2 fantastic web communities that I'd encourage you to look at. One is called Ask Andy About Clothes, AAAC.com. Andy Gilchrist is a terrific gentleman who has been in the fashion industry his whole career, and he started this website many years ago as a place to give advice and for men to dialogue with each other about what they're wearing and why and what they like. And we're prominent in discussions on that site. Another one is called Style Forum, one word, styleforum.net, and that's another great place. And then I've been on Reddit a couple of times with interviews, and it's younger guys who asking me questions, and it was always a lot of fun for me. So it's pretty long-winded. The interviews on Reddit. If you go on Reddit and just search for Alan Edmonds, you'll see quite a bit of dialogue there too.
That's great stuff. Paul, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to come back and be a part of the show with me again this morning. Great stuff that you guys are doing at Allen Edmonds. I can't thank you enough for being here, and it's been a privilege for me to get to know both your brand, Allen Edmonds, and get to know you over the last few months. Really enjoy having you as part of the show.
Thank you very much, Chris. And can I just say in closing, it's a real honor to be on your program, knowing who your listeners are. And I just want to thank all of the servicemen and women out there for their incredible service to our country.
Thank you very much for adding that. Paul, look forward to catching up with you. I hope you'll come back again soon and keep us up to date with all the great stuff that you guys are doing in between now and then. All the best to you, your family, and everyone at Allen Edmonds. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Same to you and everybody listening in, Chris. Thanks.
All right. Take care,
bye.
Paul.
Yep. Bye.
That's Paul Grangaard, CEO of Allen Edmonds. Again, folks, AllenEdmonds.com. Great stuff. And I tell you what, when we talk about the fun stuff that they're doing, I'll tell you, you want to talk about a guy whose eyes lit up. Now, you guys know I'm a huge Jack Nicklaus fan, right? So knowing that that they are working with Mr. Nicklaus and the great shoes that they have, and I love the shoes. Really great stuff. And the hats, I bought several of the hats. I got the socks, so I got it all with Mr. Nicklaus. But then when I saw the Three Rivers Stadium cufflinks, are you kidding me? Pieces of Three Rivers Stadium, seats and a cufflink, that's outstanding. So great stuff on there. So many great things that you're going to find. Go to AllenEdmonds.com, check it out. And then again, as Paul just mentioned, ask Andy about clothes. So AAAC.com and then the StyleNet.form. Great things from Paul Grangaard. Look forward to having Paul back on the show, hopefully again real soon. All right, folks, time for me to put a bow on this one. Before we close up shop, I like to remind you, great book from our friends Dave Stockton Jr. and his dad, Dave Stockton, out there called Own Your Own Game. Remember, folks, you heard it from Jim Estes earlier in the show. So much of the game is played in that 5-inch space between our ears. So get your mind right. In this book, the Stocktons let you know how to, play better and more and winning golf by controlling your mind and easing your mind. Own Your Own Game recreates the experience of riding 18 holes with Mr. Stockton at one of his highly sought-after corporate outings and draws from his experience as a champion on both the regular tour and the senior tour, / Champions Tour now, plus as a revered coach as well. He teaches you how to think better, stay calmer, execute more consistently, and the most important thing, how to enjoy the game more thoroughly. Go to StocktonGolf.com to get your copy, and for a few extra dollars, Mr. Stockton will even autograph it for you. All right, everybody, my sincere thanks once again to Jim Estes and Paul Grangaard for joining me today and making today's show so much fun to be a part of. And we thank you for choosing to tune in. We appreciate you guys the very most. Please check out our sister show as well, ThursdayNightTailgate.com. Thursday Night Tailgate with me and my co-host, Mr. Bob Lazzari, and our announcer, Joe LaGenusa. That show airs every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can hear us on Blog Talk Radio, on Armed Forces Radio as well. That show, like this one, is also available on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player.fm, SoundCloud, our friends over at Audio Boom that have been featuring our show every week. We thank those guys very much for doing that. You can also find us on Podbean. So wherever you're pulling your podcast in from, you can find that show and this one. We are joined every week on Thursday Night Tailgate by legends from around the NFL and the CFL. They're sharing their stories with us as well. Please also check out this show and Thursday Night Tailgate on Facebook and give us a like. That's important to us too. So you can find us online. This show, nextonthet.net. And like I mentioned a moment ago, ThursdayNightTailgate.com. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for either show for free. Plus, stay up to date with who our future guests are going to be by going to either site. Thanks again, folks, like I say, for choosing to listen to this show today. We really appreciate it. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.